I stood on the threshold of my childhood home, the sun setting behind the hills, casting long shadows over the familiar lawn. My heart raced with an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread. It had been 5 years since I'd left this place, a ghost in my own family's eyes, and now I was back, a renowned soil curse ecologist, a title that had once brought nothing but ridicule. I could still hear their voices echoing in my mind, mocking my obsession with the ancient. Undulating worms of local legend, creatures said to eat memories, to twist fate. They had called my pursuits insane, demeaning me as I delved into their dark, twisted truths. "Look at him," my father had spat, the scorn curling his lip. "A disgrace to the family. He's chasing shadows." But I wasn't chasing shadows anymore. I had unearthed horrors that lay dormant beneath our feet, waiting patiently for the foolish to probe too deep. I had become something they could never comprehend, and now I sought not their acceptance, but their reckoning. As I entered the house, the familiar smell of old wood and mothballs enveloped me. It felt suffocating. My mother was in the kitchen, her back turned to me as she stirred a pot of something unrecognizable. I cleared my throat, and she turned, her eyes widening as the spoon clattered to the floor. "Oliver?" she whispered, the disbelief palpable in her voice. "Is that really you?" "Yeah, Mom, it's me," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. "I came to talk." My siblings emerged, their expressions a mix of surprise and unease. The years hadn't been kind to them. They wore the weight of their scorn like a shroud. "What do you want?" my sister asked, her tone sharper than the knives they used to carve the roast that now lay cold and forgotten. "Just to share what I've learned," I said, my voice trembling with the gravity of it all. I recounted my journey, the accusations that had blacklisted me, the years spent in isolation, the obsession that had transformed into something terrifying, yet beautiful. I spoke of the sentient hunger of the soil, the whispers of the earth that had guided me to truths no one else dared to face. I wanted them to understand the importance of what I had found, to see the reality behind the folklore they had mocked. But as I spoke, I could see the skepticism in their eyes hardening, the disbelief thickening the air between us. My father crossed his arms, his lips pursed. "You're still lost in those delusions, aren't you? There's no such thing as—" Before he could finish, I felt a cold rush of energy pulse through the room. The shadows deepened, the light dimming, and suddenly I was no longer alone in this space. I had brought something with me. Something that had clung to me through the years, a manifestation of the knowledge I possessed. A low, unsettling sound began to resonate from the floor, a deep, pulsing beat that made the very walls tremble. My family exchanged fearful glances as the shadows thickened, coiling around their legs like serpents. It was the worms, my ancient companions, the hungry remnants of the soil, and they thrived on fear, anger, and disbelief. "Get out!" my sister screamed, her voice a high-pitched wail. But it was too late. The ground beneath us shuddered, and the dark. Undulating forms began to emerge, writhing up through the cracks in the wooden floor, their glistening bodies shimmering with a grotesque beauty. "Oliver, what have you done?" my father shouted, his bravado crumbling as the darkness swirled around him. "I didn't bring them here," I said, my voice shaking as I tried to explain. "They're always here, just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to feed." The worms began to inch toward them, their movement hypnotic, almost inviting. I could see my family's faces blanch, the realization dawning in their eyes that the very thing they had derided was now consuming them, not merely in body, but in memory and spirit. The air grew thick with the scent of earth, a putrid mix of decay and desperation. "Stop, please," my mother begged, tears streaming down her face. We believed in you. We just wanted you to be normal." "Normal?" I echoed, the bitterness rising in my throat. "You mocked me for seeking the truth. You wanted me to pretend the horrors beneath our feet didn't exist, but they do, and they are hungry." My words hung in the air as the worms surged forward, their bodies coiling around my family, drawing them down, suffocating them in their own disbelief. I watched, frozen, as my mother's screams faded into silence, my father's anger dissolving into terror. The worms consumed their memories, their laughter, their disdain, everything that made them who they were. In that terrible moment, I understood the cost of their ridicule. I had survived the darkest depths of knowledge, but they would never be granted the chance to confront their ignorance. They would become mere shadows, echoes of what once was, forever entwined with the hunger of the soil. As the last echoes of their cries faded, the room fell still. I could feel the weight of their absence, the void where my family had once stood. I had returned not for acceptance, but for a reckoning, and I had witnessed the terrible justice of karma unfold before my eyes. Alone in the house that had once felt like a refuge, I turned to leave. The burdens of the past clung to me, but I had become something more than what they had tried to shape me into. I was a guardian of the hidden truths, a sentinel of the horrors that lay beneath. And as I stepped back into the world, I knew that not only had I survived, but I had also become a warning, a whisper of what could happen when one dares to disregard the truth buried in the soil beneath our feet.